Hello, friends. If you are 65 or older and you still own, insure, or drive a car in 2026, there are 6 vehicle expenses you may be able to reduce or eliminate this year. One of them alone is worth up to $2,000. And the most important thing I can tell you right now is this. Most of the people who qualify for these savings are still paying full price. Not because the programs do not exist, because nobody told them, and because not a single one of these applies automatically. No agency calls, no office mails you the form. The bill just keeps arriving at the full amount until you take one step. I am going to walk you through all 6 right now. Hello, friends. Here is what you need to know before we start. These 6 cost cuts are not all one federal program with one set of rules. Some come from state insurance law, some come from your DMV, some come from your county tax office, and at least one of them depends on nothing more than which county you happen to live in. So grab a pen right now. I'm going to walk through all 6, and I want you to mark the ones that fit your situation today. Your insurance, your registration, your emissions county, your parking, your local tax bill. At least one of these is probably already yours. The reason I track all of this full time is because the rules shift, fee schedules change, income limits move, county deadlines move, and local relief programs are the easiest thing in the world to miss because nobody is paid to sit down with you and explain it one bill at a time. The people subscribed here find out in time. Subscribe now and let's get into it. Before we go further, I need to address something, because people hear a topic like car expenses and seniors and immediately sort themselves into one of 2 groups. The first group is doing fine. Some savings, maybe a paid-off car, a decent policy, and they figure this is about hardship programs for people in worse shape. The second group is watching every dollar, living on a fixed income, and they've learned the hard way to assume the real programs are always for someone else. Both of those assumptions are wrong about at least one item on this list. And on every single one, I'm going to tell you exactly which group it helps most and why. The comfortable group is going to be surprised by the very first item. The fixed income group is going to be surprised by one they would have scrolled right past. And stay with me for the last one, because it is not a discount at the pump or a coupon from your insurer. It is an annual tax break on one car that some counties will not apply unless you ask. Now let's get into the 6. Number 1. Your auto insurance premium after a mature driver course. Here is the misconception. Most people over 55 look at their car insurance bill, assume the number is the number, and never ask whether there is a discount tied to their age and their driving record that nobody applied. That assumption is quietly costing some of you real money every single renewal cycle. Here is how it actually works in many states. If you are 55 or older and you complete an approved defensive driving or accident prevention course, state law may require your insurer to reduce your premium. In Pennsylvania, drivers 55 and older are entitled to at least 5% off their vehicle insurance after completing a PennDOT approved course. In Minnesota, the law says insurers must provide at least 10% off for drivers 55 and older who finish a 4-hour approved course. These are legal minimums, not suggestions. And many carriers will stack additional age-related discounts on top if you ask. The course itself is not expensive. The AARP Smart Driver course runs $26.95 for AARP members and $29.95 for non-members. You can do it online. Now here is who this helps most, and it is going to surprise the first group I mentioned. This is the comfortable retirees item. There is no income test in Pennsylvania or Minnesota's version of this discount. You do not have to prove hardship. You just have to complete the course and tell your insurer. The people who skip this are almost always the ones who assume benefit means low income. It does not. This is insurance law, and it applies to your premium regardless of your net worth. Let me give you the math. If your annual premium is above about $539, even Pennsylvania's legal minimum 5% discount beats the cost of a $26.95 course in the first year. If you are paying $1,200 a year, that is $60 back every year for a course you took once. And where the refresher is required, it is every 3 years. One afternoon every 3 years to keep a discount running on every renewal in between. This is not automatic. Your insurer does not call and volunteer the discount. You complete the course, you submit the certificate, you ask. Here is what to do. Complete an approved mature driver course, PennDOT's approved list if you are in Pennsylvania, AARP Smart Driver Anywhere, or your state's equivalent. Then call your insurer's billing department and use these words. I'm 55 or older, I completed an approved mature driver course, and I want every discount on my policy tied to that certificate and my current driving profile. One call. And mark the date because where the refresher is required, the window is every 3 years. That is number one. That discount is the easy one. The next one is where the state can charge two people very different renewal costs for the same basic privilege. Number two, your vehicle registration fee. Most people assume registration is a flat state fee, the same for everybody, and you just pay it. That is not true in every state. In some states, your age, your income, or your retirement status can cut the registration cost on at least one vehicle. In Alaska, residents 65 and older may be exempt from fees and taxes when registering one vehicle. In New Jersey, seniors 65 and older pay $7 less than the standard passenger vehicle registration fee. And in Pennsylvania, there is a retired status registration category that drops the annual cost significantly if your income qualifies. Let me show you the Pennsylvania math because it is a clean example. The regular passenger registration fee in Pennsylvania is $48. The retired status processing fee is $12. That is a difference of $36 every single year on one car. Keep the same vehicle on the road for 10 years, and that is $360 you did not need to hand over. The 2026 income threshold for Pennsylvania's retired status registration is $30,778, and it applies to registrations expiring January 2026 and later. The form is MV371. A man I heard from in Pennsylvania had been renewing the same way for years because nobody had ever told him there was a retired status rate. Richard, 68, retired machinist outside Pittsburgh. He was paying $48 every renewal. He qualified the entire time. He filed Form MV371, moved to the $12 retired processing fee, and started saving $36 a year on one vehicle. Over 10 years, that is $360. Not a large windfall, but it was money he had been handing over for no reason, every single year, because the DMV does not send you a letter when you become eligible. This item helps both groups. The savings are small enough to matter on a fixed income, and simple enough that the comfortable group routinely ignores it as not worth the paperwork. It is worth the paperwork. It takes one form. Here's what to do. Call your state DMV and ask, do you have a senior or retired status registration reduction for a passenger vehicle, and what exact form do I file to get it? In Pennsylvania, file Form MV371 before your next renewal. The 2026 income threshold is $30,778 for registrations expiring January 2026 and later. Check your state's rules because this varies. That is number two. That was a fee on paper. The next one is the yearly test some older drivers do not have to keep paying for at all. Number three, your emissions test. If your county requires emissions testing, you probably assume everyone pays it, every year, no exceptions. But in some counties and states, there is a senior exemption that waives the test entirely if you meet the requirements. In Paulding County, Georgia, for example, the senior emissions exemption applies if the vehicle owner is 65 or older, the vehicle is at least 10 years old, and the vehicle is driven fewer than 5,000 miles per year. If all three conditions are met, you can skip the emissions test for that year. The form must be completed each year. This is not a one-time filing. Now, who does this help most? This is the fixed income retiree who keeps a paid-off older car on the road for years. That is exactly the driver most likely to meet the age of vehicle and low mileage tests. And that is exactly the driver who can least afford a surprise repair bill triggered by a test they may not have needed to take. The test fee itself is only the visible part. The real savings is avoiding the yearly test cycle, the appointment, the trip, the risk of a marginal result, when your county already has a form that exempts your vehicle. Verify. Local emissions test fee in the county used. Here is what to do. Call your county emissions or tax office and ask, do you offer a senior emissions exemption for drivers 65 or older with an older vehicle driven under 5,000 miles a year, and what annual form do I need? This is not a national rule. It depends entirely on your county and state. But if it exists where you live, nobody is going to knock on your door and hand you the form just because you had a birthday. That is number three. But the test fee is not the part that hurts. The repair bill after the failure is where this gets expensive. Number four, repair help or a vehicle retirement incentive after a failed smog test. Now, everything I've covered so far has been about smaller leaks, a premium discount, a registration fee, a yearly test. This next one is where a routine inspection turns into 4 figures, and I need you to hear it carefully, because the program that exists here is the one people find out about after they have already spent the money. Here's the misconception. Most people think that once a car fails its emissions or smog test, the only choices are pay whatever the shop quotes or give up the vehicle. That is not true in California, and it may not be true in your state either. California runs the Consumer Assistance Program through the Bureau of Automotive Repair. If your vehicle fails its smog check and you meet the income and eligibility rules, the state may help pay to fix it, or pay you to retire it. The repair path covers up to $1,450 for vehicles model year 1996 or newer, and up to $1,100 for model years 1976 to 1995. The income requirement is gross household income at or below 225% of the federal poverty level. The retirement path offers $1,350, $1,500, or $2,000 depending on your income eligibility and your vehicle's smog check status. The $1,500 option requires a smog check within 180 days before applying. And there are registration lapse rules, including no lapse greater than 120 days on some paths. This is not a $20 test problem. This is a program that can be worth $1,450 in repairs, or $2,000 if retiring the vehicle is the smarter move. A viewer wrote in about a retired aide in California whose smog failure looked like a car problem until she learned it was really a program problem. Gloria, 73, retired home health aide, Fresno. Her older car failed smog check, and the repair estimate was more than she could comfortably absorb. She checked the Consumer Assistance Program, and depending on the route that fit her vehicle and income, the program could be worth up to $1,450 in repair help or $2,000 toward retirement if the failed smog and income rules were met. That is the difference between a crisis and a plan. Who does this help most? Fixed income retirees. This is the repair bill relief item. It matters most when a failed test becomes a household-level financial problem, and you did not know the state had a program before you authorized the shop bill. Here's what to do. If your vehicle failed smog check, do not authorize expensive repairs before checking the Consumer Assistance Program. Call 866-272-9642 and say, "My vehicle failed smog check, and I want to know whether I qualify for CAP repair assistance or the vehicle retirement incentive before I spend money." The repair or retirement must happen by the expiration date on the eligibility letter. Miss that deadline, and you have to reapply. For the $1,500 retirement path, the smog check must be within 180 days. This is California-specific and income-tested for the higher dollar paths, so check your state for similar programs. That is number 4. If your car is still on the road, the next cost is smaller, quieter, and more repetitive. The kind of parking charge people stop noticing because it hits in little pieces. Number 5. Your parking cost with a disability placard. Here is the misconception, and I hear it constantly. People assume the disability placard is for somebody in much worse shape than they are. They picture a wheelchair, a walker, a condition far more severe than their own. And because of that picture, they never ask their doctor whether their actual condition already qualifies. Here is the reality. In California, a permanent disability placard allows you to park in on-street metered parking spaces at no charge. That is not a discount. That is free metered parking, anywhere the city has a meter, for as long as the placard is valid. And there is no charge to renew a permanent placard in California. The qualifying conditions are not limited to what most people imagine. They include conditions that limit or impair walking, lung disease, cardiovascular conditions, and certain visual impairments. Many seniors over 65 have at least one condition on the list and do not realize it qualifies. The form in California is Reg 195, and your medical provider completes the certification section. Now, who does this help most? Both groups, but only if you have a qualifying medical condition. This is not age-based by itself, it is condition-based. And the reason I include it here is that the people who benefit most are often the ones who say, "That's not for me." If you are paying a parking meter every week at a medical office, a grocery store, or downtown, and you have a qualifying condition, that is a recurring cost you may be paying for no reason at all. Verify. Local meter rates and annual parking cost estimate. This is not automatic. The parking relief does not activate until the placard exists. The placard does not exist until you file the application, and the application does not move until your doctor signs the certification. Here is what to do. Ask your doctor or qualified medical provider this question. Does my condition qualify me for a disabled parking placard? And what section do you need to complete on the form? In California, the form is Reg 195. Renewal of a permanent placard is free. Check your state's version. The placard programs exist nationwide, but the specific parking privileges vary by state and city. That is number 5. And the last one is the quietest of all, because it shows up as a tax bill on one car, and most people never imagine their age could lower it. Number 6. Your local vehicle personal property tax. This is the item I teased at the beginning, and it is here at the end for a reason. It is the most overlooked, the most local, and the most likely to be missed because people simply do not think of a car as something that qualifies for senior tax relief. Houses? Yes. Cars? No. That assumption is wrong in more counties than you would expect. Here is how it works. In some Virginia counties, for example, residents 65 and older who meet income and asset rules can get tax relief on one vehicle per household. In Fairfax County, vehicle tax relief is available on one vehicle for residents 65 or older or permanently and totally disabled who meet these limits. Gross income up to $22,000 or up to $29,500 if permanently and totally disabled, and net assets up to $75,000. Returning applicants have a deadline of May 1st, 2026, with a possible hardship extension to December 31st. In Loudoun County, the structure is different. The 2026 tax rate page shows a general automobile rate of $3.09 per $100 of assessed value, and an eligible elderly or disabled vehicle rate of $1.50 per $100. The same page also shows 2026 personal property tax relief at 41%, which means the actual bill math for any individual vehicle needs to be checked carefully against the county's current formula before you calculate a savings figure. County assessed value and local rate interaction for a specific savings figure. Who does this help most? Both groups, depending on the county's rules. Fairfax is tighter and more focused on fixed income households. Loudoun's lower rate structure can also catch more comfortable homeowners off guard. People who assumed there was no vehicle tax relief at all in their county because they never thought to ask about their car. On the Wright County tax bill, this is not a coupon at the gas pump. It is an annual tax reduction on one car that keeps hitting every single year until you apply. Nobody applies it for you. Nobody sends a notice the year you turn 65. The bill arrives at the full rate until you file. Here is what to do. Call your county tax office. In Fairfax, 703-2228-234. In Loudoun, 703-737-8557, and use these exact words. Do you offer senior or disability vehicle tax relief on one car? What are the income and asset limits? And what is the filing deadline this year? That is one phone call and 3 questions. In Fairfax, returning applicants face a real deadline, May 1st, 2026. This is the most localized item on the list, so if you are not in Virginia, call your own county and ask. You may be surprised by what exists. That is number 6. So here is the full picture. The auto insurance premium that can shrink after one approved mature driver course. Complete the course, submit the certificate, and call your insurer. The registration renewal that may not have to cost the full state rate. Ask your DMV for the senior or retired status form. The emissions test that some older low-mileage drivers can skip entirely. Call your county and ask for the senior exemption form. The failed smog repair or retirement program that can move into 4 figures of help. Call the state program before you authorize out-of-pocket repairs. The parking costs that can disappear if a qualifying condition makes you eligible for a placard. Ask your doctor to certify and file the application. And the one-car tax bill your county may lower only after you ask. Call the tax office with 3 questions and a deadline. 6 vehicle costs. 6 places where the default bill may be higher than it needs to be. Now here is what ties every one of them together. Your insurer does not call and volunteer every discount. Your DMV does not assume you know the retired rate exists. Your county does not hand you the emissions exemption form because you had a birthday. The repair program does not start before you apply. The parking relief does not activate until the placard exists. And the county tax office does not lower the bill on one car just because you are old enough to qualify. Being legally eligible to pay less and actually paying less are 2 completely different things. The gap between them is information, and that is exactly why this channel exists. Now, I want you to think of one person, a parent, a neighbor, a friend from church, a sibling over 65 who still drives the same paid-off car every week. Not because they are struggling, because the odds are good they are still paying at least one of these bills the default way. And one conversation or one forwarded link can change that. Send them this video. Subscribe if you have not already so you do not miss the next one. And I'll see you in the next one.